Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap. Yudi here, back for another video. Let's get into it. We're excited. Happy Black History Month. I feel like this is like the perfect video to include in Black History Month. Why? Because I was thinking about this. Our book reviews are generally going to be Black, authors of color. But I believe that, 9 times out of 10, like, this is a channel for my own personal pleasure. I pleasure read, and I tend to like, specific kinds of books. And I think the main thing that I want to strive for during Black History Month is reading from authors, narratives that display more breadth in the diversity of Black characters, Black stories, Black literature. So really making sure that I read outside my normal genres, outside of normal plot points and characters that I generally read. And just making sure that I really bring diverse storytelling and voices onto my platform, from Black writers, specifically, all the time, but really being intentional about that during Black History Month. So on that note, the book that I'm reviewing today is My Government Means to Kill Me. My Government Means to Kill Me by Rasheed Newson. This book came out last year. Yes, it came out in August. So it's a relatively new book, and I haven't really seen too many videos on the platform, but I did see To Be Black and Loved review or mention this book in their yearly wrap up, and it sounded super interesting. And when I went to the library, I saw it and I was like, let me pick it up and read it. And this was, not spoiler, but just, for y'all to know how I felt. This was an excellent read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was interesting. It was dramatic, but still insightful. A lot of history placed within the book, and you just walk away really getting a lot at the end, and I felt really fulfilled. And I would highly recommend this if you're looking for something to read this month or just in general. This book follows the character Trey. He leaves Indianapolis at the age of 17 to move to New York City, and it's pretty much a coming of age story as he comes into himself while also becoming this political activist in the gay rights movement space, specifically during the late 80s, during the time of the AIDS pandemic. So the story follows that. Trey's character was an interesting character to me. To explain the narrative follows Trey kind of reflecting on these 2 years that he's in New York City. So he's a lot, even though we don't really get much like context of his older self, but in the narrator is his older self recollecting these 2 years that he was in New York. And it was really, in terms of just his voice, speaking of like the way that the story is written, it reads very cinematic, and you understand why when you read the blurb on Rasheed, who has actually been a writer and producer on the likes of Narcos, The Chi, and Bel-Air. And Narcos specifically, because Narcos is, if you've seen Narcos, it's based in true events and a lot of true characters. The events are fictionalized, but a lot of the dialogue, the actual, encounters are fictitious, but it's based in very true events. And that's very much the way that The Government Means to Kill Me is written, that these are very true events that happen. While Trey is fictitious, a lot of the characters that he encounters aren't. And while the dialogue might be fictitious, there is a lot of a reality based
in the storyline. And I really appreciated that. It actually made me wonder. I was all like, it were so and so really friends? And did he really feel this way about certain like actors and, figures during this time? And also the way that the writing and the humor, like the dialogue is so, it feels so natural and so on point. I love the dialogue, and I love some good dialogue. I hate when dialogue feels, I don't, trife is not the right word, but it feels like it's not based in like a natural, true place. And the banter and the beats of humor are like so on point in this book. And sometimes I literally hollered laughing, and just like there were some really dark points but some really humorous points, and it just really balanced that really well. And the actual structure of the book, the chapters feel very, again, they feel very episodic, in terms of like each chapter feels like this life lesson that Trey gets, as he's navigating his way through New York and coming into himself in his own political voice, which is like super interesting. I felt like I would really enjoy this if it was an audiobook, and there might be an audiobook. I haven't checked. I appreciated as a character Trey's like the way that sex and sexuality was approached within this book. Trey's own, journey through his sexuality. Some of that was like, oh, this is very liberating, or I really appreciated it. And I feel like also in terms of sexuality, in terms of love, and specifically romantic love, it was very complicated. And I just really appreciated the complicatedness, but also the freeness of Trey's relationship with sex and sexuality, especially during this time. And also, I have to remember that, like, one, this, like, Trey is, like, really young. Like, by the beginning of the book, he's 17. At the end of the book, he's, I believe, 19. So he's really young, and this is not, like, you feel like, oh my gosh, it feels like a decade has gone by. So I feel like so much stuff has happened. But in all actuality, it's been only 2 years. And he's young. And it makes more sense about the mistakes or choices he makes, especially like in terms of the relationships that he has with certain people within the book. I'm specifically thinking of two characters, Harrison and Eric, which are like his two like romantic interests. And Greggy's not really a romantic interest. They actually have the most complicated, to me, the most complicated relationship within the book. And it's interesting because the book begins with them meeting and then ends with like pretty much the end and demise of their friendship. And they have such this like, there's this like this love, this like tinge of like romantic interest within one another, but like this brotherliness. And yeah, they have like the most complicated relationship, and they're like opposites, but then yeah, it was just super, that was super interesting, and I think a lot to dissect. And I think once you actually hone in on his relationship with his roommate Gregory, I think the ending and the beginning and the actual story and what exactly the author wants to convey makes more sense. Because at the end, let's talk about the end. At the end, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I felt like there were some other plot lines that I wish we got a little bit more context or maybe a little bit more closure that didn't really happen. And it was like the least, like, out of all the ways you thought about this book ending, you did not imagine ending in this way. And there was a lot of plot points that kind of came at the end, kind of like in a rushed way. But then also, because the chapters feel so episodic, I feel like there were some things that happened within a chapter that just kind of was just like left within that chapter, and he got that lesson, and that was pretty much it. So it made the ending even more kind of like, but bizarre is not the right word, but it was just kind of like, huh? Like, I was not expecting that. And then the book kind of like ends, and you're like, okay, so we're not going to unpack that at all. You're just going to leave me here, like in this way. But I still overall really enjoyed the book. Enjoyed it, but wouldn't quite say it was a 5 out of 5, specifically because of the ending. It's more like a 4.5 out of 5 for me. But again, the things that I did enjoy, I really enjoyed the banter, the conversation between the characters. I really enjoyed, I didn't mention, but the book, again, because it references so many like important historical things, especially like Trey, he's in a specific scene of, this is a specific scene, first being in like New York City, and also being gay. There's just a lot of um places and figures and like references that the footnotes were really helpful, like just knowing what exactly was real and what wasn't real. And like specifically Trey, he goes to bathhouses, and just like these underground, you know which, I mean, I don't know who's watching this, like because especially like in New York City, or when you think of these major cities, where being out and open and queer, you could be crucified, you could be, beaten by police and things like that, raids and things like that. So there's a lot of like spots where, gay men or queer people meet. And it was nice that he referenced these places, and also like he'll give how long they've been open, and the whole thing. And it was really interesting because like the bathhouse scene was something that I wasn't particularly aware of, and just certain social settings like were things that I was new to me. So the footnotes were really helpful in terms of saying, hey, this place was real, this place was open from this time to this time, this is what happened in these places. Or certain political figures, where a lot of political figures, like I wasn't like completely like, oh, I don't know who this person is, but it was helpful just getting like, oh, this, like what political figures or names mentioned were actual people and what they did and what they contributed to the movement and activism. So yeah, the footnotes were really helpful, and they really added some oomph to the story that was being told and the dialogues that were happening, because there was actually a lot of critique, a lot of points being made that you couldn't really fully digest if you didn't understand where exactly the character was coming from and who exactly he was referencing. So like, yeah, there was like specifically I'm thinking of two Black gay political figures, or figures in like the civil rights movement, that were mentioned in the book, and the dialogue he has about their work as as Black activists, also as gay activists. And if you don't know the characters and what exactly they've done in their work, it kind of won't hit. So the footnotes, again, were helpful. I actually like the footnotes. And usually I'm not a footnotes girly. I'd be skipping the footnotes. Unless, like, maybe when I was back in school and I had to, like, use it for academic reference. But, like, I felt like in this context, it was actually, I really enjoyed it and it was done well. So, yeah, again, really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Let me know if you've read it and what your thoughts are on this specific story. Yeah, but I just really wanted to get this video out here just because I haven't seen a lot of video reviews. And for those that were thinking, should I not read it, go ahead and read it. Yeah, until the next time, it was great speaking with you guys. We'll have more discussion in the comments. Deuces.